Welcome back. All right. So I've talked about the East this week and how competitive things are and how everybody's within a few points of one another. Out West, the story's different. There are definitely some teams that are lagging behind. There are some teams that are below the NHL 500 mark. But I want to talk about three teams today that seem to be coming out of their rebuilds. And I would think there's a chance one of them ends up in the playoffs, maybe two this year, because things in the West, I think there's definitely an opening there for a team to get in. And it'll be interesting to see how it works. Now, I've arranged this by where they are in the standings. So Anaheim, Chicago, and San Jose. But there's reason for excitement around all three. And it feels like it's been a long time since there was a lot of optimism around any of these teams. So we'll go ahead. We'll start off with the Ducks. We'll go from top to bottom here. And I guess they're also in alphabetical order, which is nice for the standings and nice for the video. The Anaheim Ducks are 8-3-1, 17 points so far this season, and they're turning some heads. And Leo Carlsson, as advertised, 12 games, 5 goals, 13 assists, 18 points. So while Celebrini might be the big name on the board and Bedard's the one that everybody's been waiting to see him join the upper echelon in terms of scoring, Leo Carlsson looks fantastic. Cutter Gauthier, 12 games, 10 goals, 6 assists, 16 points for Gauthier. Fantastic pickup by them from Philadelphia. The kid looks like he's going to be a scoring star for a long time. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up, I don't think he's going to keep scoring 10 goals every 12 games, but I think a 40-goal season is quite possible since he only needs to score 30 more to get there. McTavish, 12 games, 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points. Remember during the summer when there was all the speculation, McTavish is going to get traded and where's McTavish going to go? Nope, Ducks didn't trade him and they kept him. Seneca, 12 games, 4 goals, 3 assists, 7 points. Less attention to Seneca, obviously, than a lot of other young players, but he has a lot of talent. Hellison, 12 games, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points on the blue line. And Lacombe, 5 assists in 12 games. I have heard complaints about his contract and the $9 million cap hit that it carries, but I still think Lacombe is going to be a very good defenseman for Anaheim for a long time. And clearly Pat Verbeek is of the mind that that's the case as well. Now in net, they have Lucas Dostal. And Dostal has had a remarkable start to the season. Last year he had a remarkable start as well. He faded a bit in the second half. We'll see if going through that first season as a starter last year will lead to some better, maybe better habits, maybe better preparation for the next game kind of thing. Maybe Dostal has a better second half than last year. They're scoring 3.92 goals per game. They're allowing 3.08 goals against per game. It is remarkable how dangerous Anaheim looks offensively, especially compared to last year when they weren't very good offensively. Anaheim really had their struggles, and their power play reflects this too. This year, they're at 20.4%. I think they were around 12% last year. Their penalty kill, 84.6%. That's some good special teams. And I think they have the Rangers to thank for some of this as well, and we'll come to that when we get to the key veterans. But I wanted to heap a little bit of praise here on Pat Verbeek, the general manager. He's done a very good job bringing this team together. I saw a lot of criticism of how long it took for McTavish to get signed and some of the other moves made, but it's worked out pretty well. Joel Quenneville is, I would think, the front runner for Coach of the Year. I'm telling you, if Anaheim wins the division, Joel Quenneville's Coach of the Year. There's just, I don't think there's anybody else that would come close because we were expecting Anaheim to be better, but this better? Not necessarily. Now, 5 of their next 6 are away from home. So for Anaheim, that's a really good test for this record to see where they're at. But after that, 9 of their following 10 are at home. Now, at home, they're 4-1. Away from home, they are 4-2-1. So their road record isn't as good as their home record, but they've got a lot of home games coming up on their schedule. So both the home and road records are good for them. And then we'll talk about the key veterans now, shall we? So Granlund, who's been hurt the last few games here. I think it's been 3 or 4 games he's missed. There's a lot of players for me to follow, a lot of teams and everything, but I'm pretty sure Granlund's been out the last few. And it hasn't hurt them at all. Chris Kreider has been fantastic. Amazing addition for the Anaheim Ducks. Strome, who hasn't played yet this season, and he's getting ready to return. It'll be interesting to see where he slides into the lineup. I would think probably third line center or somewhere around there. Troy Terry is now, in my mind, a veteran. He's been around long enough that I would put him into the veterans. I did want to focus on the young players in red here before we get to the veterans, and just to point out how these young cores are coming along. Vetrano plays a more diminished role on the Anaheim Ducks now than he did, which makes a lot of sense. The team is better now. Vetrano's not going to get the same amount of ice time or the opportunities he got in years past, but it means the Ducks are a better team. So it's a good thing for the Ducks. And for Vetrano, it's not like he's hurting financially, and it's not like the team's losing or anything, so I'm sure he's fine with the drop-off in his production as long as the team is winning. On the blue line, Trouba, Gudas, there was plenty of criticism of both players being acquired by Anaheim. Gudas is a free agent and Trouba via trade, but they've held on to both, and both of them are key defensemen for the Anaheim Ducks. They absolutely are, and I think Trouba's off to the best start I've seen him have in his career. So it's honestly worked out really well for Verbeek, and all of these expectations that they would get veterans just to swap them over at deadlines and whatnot, I don't think so. And then you look at cap space, and this is where these three teams are so dangerous going forward. $14,224,101 in cap space currently, according to Puckpedia. So Anaheim has a ton of money. They could add at the deadline. They could add whenever they feel like it. And there are a lot of teams in the NHL that would envy this position. You have a really good young team and a ton of cap space. Which brings us to Chicago. Chicago's got younger this year. They're 6-5-3. They have 15 points on the season. They are led in scoring by Bedard. 14 games, 7 goals, 11 assists, 18 points. So that'll quiet some of the bust discussion, but I'm sure that unless he scores 200 points in a season, it'll still be out there for some. Nazar, 14 games, 5 goals, 6 assists, 11 points. Really, really impressed by Frank's two-way game. Lev Shanov, 6 assists in 13 games. Crevier, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points in 13 games. Vlasic, a goal and 3 assists for 4 points in 13 games. And then Oliver Moore has had 1 assist in the 2 games he's played since being recalled, and he's considered to be a key player for this team and their future. There's a lot of really good young talent with Chicago. There's still good young talent coming up. I don't even have Rinzel on the board. That was on purpose. I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of good young talent here. I've already got 3 young defensemen on the board. That points out how good this young defense is without even bringing Rinzel into the question. Spencer Knight has looked fantastic for them. Last night against Vancouver, showed again. He is off to an amazing start to the season, and he has given them goaltending that this team hasn't had. No offense to Peter Mrazek, but they've not had goaltending at this level for a long time. I would say since Corey Crawford's prime. And I might even put Spencer Knight where he's playing right now, up above that maybe a little bit. They're scoring 3.14 goals per game, so much like Anaheim last season, Chicago had their struggles with goal scoring. Their goals against 2.79, remarkable improvement by this team year over year. Their power plays actually dropped off from last season. I remember last season they were top 10. This year, 17.1%, so you have to think eventually that'll get going. Their penalty kill is good at 83.3%. So the numbers are good. Kyle Davidson deserves a lot of credit for what he's got put together here as the general manager. And Jeff Blashill, when he was hired, there were some head scratchings that took place. Just because I think with Blashill, his track record in Detroit wasn't necessarily fantastic. But coaches in new locations can have much greater success than they had in previous locations. And for Blashill, so far, Chicago, I think, has been a little bit above what people would have expected from them this year. Now, the next 2 for Chicago are on the road. So they're on this road trip. They have 2 more left on this road trip. And then 8 of the following 9 games are at home. Now, their home record, 3-2-1, not fantastic. Their road record, 3-3-2. So they're not putting up the kinds of... Well, their record isn't in that same realm as, say, what Anaheim's doing. But still, being a little bit above NHL 500 at this time of year is much, much better than what we've seen of Chicago for about a half decade. Now, their key veterans, Bertuzzi has been a solid addition. He had the hat trick, of course, last night against Vancouver in that third period. Ryan Donato has experienced a huge renaissance as a member of the Chicago Blackhawks. Brilliant idea to bring him back. Brilliant on his behalf as well as the team's. Nick Foligno. When they brought in Nick Foligno, I had a question about that. Like, I thought it was a lot of money. But honestly, it's worked out pretty well. The veterans they've brought in have really helped these kids along the way, and Nick Foligno's been a real strong leader for them. Teravainen, good addition there, bringing him back to Chicago. And Mikheyev. They pick up Mikheyev from Vancouver, and he's scoring at a decent rate for Chicago. And there's not a lot of pressure on Mikheyev in Chicago. Definitely not at the level it would have been in Vancouver. And You just go out and be Ilya Mikheyev, do Mikheyev things. On the blue line, they've got Grzelcyk, they've got Murphy. Grzelcyk, I think, has been good. The offense not at the level it was last year, but I think he's still playing all right. And Connor Murphy's the other veteran for them on the blue line. You have to have, I think, a minimum of 2 veterans on the blue line, and they've accomplished that. But cap space, lots of cap space. $18,194,511 in cap space. Absolutely ridiculous. And they don't even have, by what I'm seeing on Puckpedia, Shea Weber isn't on the LTIR. They've just got Shea Weber on IR. Obviously, he'd be LTIR eligible, and then you can wipe off that whole amount, and that gives them all of the cap space, all of it. So for Kyle Davidson, he's in a really good position. He's got a team that's in the mix when it comes to the playoffs. He's got a ton of cap space that he can utilize to add to this team should he feel the need to do so. I think a couple of veteran forwards who can play second, third line would be great additions. I think maybe a little bit more depth on the blue line could be good too. And so if they stay in the hunt, maybe you're adding at the deadline. Maybe Chicago, for the first time in a very long time, would be looking to add at the trade deadline. It could be very entertaining, which brings us to San Jose. Speaking of entertaining, and I'm wearing San Jose because they've been more entertaining than I'd expected, and I'm glad their record started getting better. I was getting tired of saying, look, they're playing well. I don't know why they keep losing. Goaltending was part of it early on, though, wasn't it? 5-6-3 record, 13 points for San Jose. But considering previous seasons where they had struggles getting to 20 wins, it's nice to see that they're going to have a season where they should not have a problem getting to 20 wins. Macklin Celebrini's a big part of the reason why. 14 games, 8 goals, 13 assists for 21 points. Celebrini has been much better than what I think any of us would have dreamt of the day he was drafted first overall by the San Jose Sharks. And he is kind of dragging this team to a good record. But don't overlook Smith either. Will Smith, 14 games, 5 goals, 8 assists, 13 points. Will Eklund, 12 games, 5 goals, 6 assists, 11 points for him. Colin Graff, 13 games, 1 goal, 3 assists. Sam Dickinson's still learning the processes at the defensive NHL level. 1 goal in 11 games for him. And Misa, 7 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points. So what stands out with them is that they've got 4 forwards, 5 forwards and a defenseman here. Obviously with Chicago, it's a lot of defensemen. And with Anaheim, it's 4 forwards, 2 defensemen. If I slow down, it's easier to say. Askarov has had his ups and downs, and there were downs early in the season. His ups have been more recent. 3.43 goals scored per game by San Jose. They've allowed 3.79 goals against per game. So unlike Chicago and Anaheim, they have allowed more than they've scored, but it feels like they're getting better. That 6-1 destruction last night of Seattle definitely helps to even these numbers just a little bit. Their power play, 19.2%. That's going to get better as Celebrini gets better, and which is scary because he's already up with the NHL league leaders in points. 76.1% penalty kill. San Jose could be better than that. One thing about San Jose's really bad years is very often they still had a very good penalty kill. The general manager, Mike Greer, I've heard a lot of complaints about Greer and the job he's done over the years, but I've heard them a lot less frequently now than I heard them say 3 years ago. So I think Greer's been there for 3. Is it 3 years? Is it 4? I don't know what years mean anymore. Time just doesn't seem to matter. But yeah, Greer's done, I think, a pretty good job. And I was one of the few that when the Tomas Hertl trade was made, I was like, nah, I understand. I get it. And a lot of people didn't like the return from Vegas, but I thought it was fine. I thought getting that cap space and getting rid of that contract was good because this team was going to be iffy for a while. And Ryan Warsofsky's done a good job behind the bench as coach as well. He deserves some credit for their record getting a little better this year. The thing with San Jose is their schedule looks similar to the ones above them here. First, they have 2 at home. Then they have 3 on the road. So they have their next 2 are at home, then 3 on the road. And then 7 of the following 9 are in San Jose. The Sharks can really make some hay. The problem is their home record's not great. They're 2-3-3 at home. That's got to improve. If San Jose is actually going to stay in the hunt and maybe flirt with the idea of being a wild card or getting above that playoff line for the first time in a very long time, they have to be good at home. They're 3-3 on the road, which is great. If you're 500 on the road and you've got a good home record, you have a decent chance of making the National Hockey League's playoffs in 2026. But San Jose's the one that it feels like they're coming on now, and they're starting to figure this out. And that game last night against Seattle could be an indicator that San Jose's getting their confidence and they're really getting their game where they want it. Now, looking at key veterans, it's a little different for San Jose, but at least this year they've got some veterans that can help prop up the kids. You've got Khrushchev, who's having a really strong run right now. Skinner, who has been, I think he was a healthy scratch the one game. But with Skinner, you're gonna get nights where he ends up not in the lineup. You're gonna have nights where he gets 2 or 3 goals, and those nights might be right next to each other. Tyler Toffoli has been fantastic for them. He's not scoring at the same rate this year as last year, I don't believe, but he's still playing well. And Wenberg, good veteran addition, can play top 6 here and there, can play bottom 6 as well. So he moves up and down the lineup. And then on the blue line, you've got Ferraro, who's been in San Jose a long time. It'd be nice to see Ferraro playing games that mean something late in the season. And Klingberg and Orlov, both of them have kind of brought their careers back. Orlov already with 10 assists this season. And whether San Jose keeps him or moves him at the deadline, we'll see a few months from now. But if they stay in the hunt, maybe they're looking to add as well. Now, what's interesting is, in terms of cap space, they currently have $5,928,333. But that's a lie, because a lot of their cap space is eaten up by contracts of players who aren't playing. As examples, Ryan Ellis, Logan Couture, and Carey Price. All of them, their contracts are on injured reserve, meaning they're not on LTIR, but they can be. And so San Jose's in a position where they got a lot of, as we refer to it, dead cap money, but they can also put a lot of money on LTIR and then go out and look to add if they decide to do so at the deadline. So what's fun is that this year in the West, we're finally seeing these 3 teams playing games that matter, finally seeing these 3 teams showing signs of improvement, which I do think part of the reason that the NHL, last season it felt like was tedious at times. It did feel like it was the same teams that were at the bottom that have been there for a long while. And so seeing a change, seeing some kind of movement in the standings of teams moving up that have been at the bottom for a while, it makes me feel better about things around the National Hockey League. And it's good for long-suffering fans as well, who have waited a long time for a team that is competitive and a playoff team. The one thing to keep in mind is that while it shows that the last time that Chicago made the playoffs was 2020, that was the expanded playoffs, and that was because they got in because of the expansion of the playoffs to 24 teams, and they knocked off Edmonton in that qualifying round. Otherwise, if not for the expanded playoffs, we'd be looking further back than that. I think it was 2017 was the last time they made the playoffs before that. So it's been a long time for all 3 of these locations. And it would be nice to see, at the very least, important games being played in all 3 locations into February, maybe early March, and maybe see one of them make it into the playoffs. So I guess the question I have for viewers is this. And all right, we'll do a couple questions. First off, does Anaheim stay in the playoffs? Is this for real? Are the Anaheim Ducks for real? They're going to be a playoff team. And then second question would be, could Chicago or San Jose, we'll just take Anaheim out of the question, could Chicago or San Jose end up being a wild card? Stay in the mix for the wild card. And I will say in closing, the amount of cap space these teams have, the amount of young talent these teams have, they're probably the envy of a lot of teams in the league right now. And this is part of the reason why other teams, it has been talked about whether or not they might need to go into a rebuild, and they haven't. And now we're seeing this emergent talent for all these young teams. I'm not a huge fan of teardowns that take 6+ years to finally see some sort of rewards. I'm just saying it's nice to see games that matter being played by the Ducks, the Blackhawks, and the Sharks again. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.